This little gremlin-looking creature took over Asia without a single word. There were no Netflix deals, Disney machines, or flashy ad campaigns. All it had were wide eyes, sharp teeth, and the ability to build a deep emotional connection with people that made them say, "Wait, is that a thing?" Chances are you've already met Labubu, whether you've seen it on an Instagram feed or in a Tokyo capsule machine. It's weird, it's cute, and it looks like the type of thing that'll bite you, but then ask for a hug afterward. Today, we're diving into how this strange little creature from the world of designer toys became an international obsession, all the way from Hong Kong to New York and beyond. This is the story of how Labubu went from being a niche art figure to a full-blown cultural icon. But before we dive in, do subscribe to our channel. Labubu is the brainchild of Kasing Lung, a Hong Kong-born artist who was raised in the Netherlands. His multicultural upbringing is what shaped his artistic vision. Lung, later in his life, was heavily influenced by European folklore, Norse mythology in particular, and this played a pivotal role in shaping the fictional universe he would go on to create. Lung initially went for a career in children's book illustration and gained recognition for his unique style, one that blended playfulness with pensive sadness. His works often featured imaginative creatures that would live in a fantasy universe. Lung introduced Labubu as part of his fantasy universe, The Monsters, back in 2015. The series itself featured multiple childish characters, each with their own quirky and dark personality. Labubu in particular has long hair, pointed ears, and a row of sharp teeth. The design, which makes them look both innocent and eerie, aligns perfectly with Lung's description, who created them to be mischievous yet kind-hearted, often getting into trouble despite good intentions. Apart from that, the character was used to convey deeper emotions, such as loneliness, curiosity, and rebellion. Lung believed that children often experience these emotions, but struggle to express them, and with Labubu, his aim was to capture this emotional essence in a way that resonated with both kids and adults. While Labubu was officially introduced in 2015, the character's initial appearance dates back to the early 2010s, when the monster was in conceptual development. The series' fictional world was filled with many different characters, but Labubu stood out among all not because of the design and appearance, but because it had raw emotions. Labubu's character was never meant to be mean or evil for that matter. It was one that just didn't fit in all the time, and this made it relatable to many fans who felt like the odd one out in their lives. Lung designed the character to look and feel a little bit creepy, but also endearing, meaning that it can tap into the rare emotional space between innocence and chaos. While the cast of the monsters, including other interesting characters like Taikoko and Zamomo, Labubu was always the emotional centerpiece. The reason? Simple. It could look completely heartbroken in one pose and filled with hope in the other, all without uttering a single word. Right from the start, Labubu was more than an average art toy. It was a small and honest expression that could help carry your emotions. It was a feeling made tangible. Labubu had already begun making waves in the art toy community by the early 2010s. However, its reach was limited only to those familiar with Lung's work. This reality would end up changing quite soon, as Lung would go on to team up with China's leading designer toy company, Pop Mart. The partnership with the two began around 2015 and turned out to be a game changer. While Labubu was the center of attention, this partnership was of such magnitude that it changed the entire landscape of collectible toys in Asia. But how did this exactly happen? Well, Pop Mart isn't your average toy brand to begin with. When it comes to Labubu, it came with the perfect retail model blind box. What this means is that when buyers placed an order, they got a sealed package, so they didn't know what edition they got until they had opened the package. This simple techniques create a thrill of randomness and discovery, perfect for the evolving Labubu editions. Thanks to Pop Mart, Labubu shifted from being a limited edition art piece into a massively distributed collectible, accessible through vending machines, retail stores, and online lotteries. And with that, it became so popular that the once niche-based collectible toy was now everywhere one could look. The original creator, Kasing Lung, was heavily involved in each Labubu edition and ensured that each one had a unique design, costume, mood, and even backstory. His creativity led to different variants like the Pirate Labubu, Forest Labubu, Fairy Tale Labubu, and more that kept fans emotionally invested in every new chapter of Labubu's ongoing story. During this era, mass production combined with personal connection is what made the Lung and Pop Mart partnership so successful, allowing Labubu to scale up and reach millions while still maintaining the emotional depth it initially had. This partnership turned into a goldmine, Pop Mart's annual revenue crossed 900 million by 2023, with a significant chunk driven by the Monster series, including Labubu. So how does a bug-eyed creature with sharp teeth and scruffy hair become so adored by millions? Having emotional depth that resonates is only part of the equation. The other half lies in the Japanese term kimo kawaii. This means something can be oddly unsettling, yet lovable at the same time. That's what Labubu does right. It's not all in on the creatures like Hello Kitty, and it's not a Funko Pop. Labubu's aesthetics embrace what's weird and unpolished, and that's what makes it real. The row of sharp teeth it has are scary, but also vulnerable at the same time. Those big wide eyes make it look surprised, and also give the impression that it realized something deeply emotional. The hair gives this appearance that it crawled out of a fairy tale after losing the battle. This constant give and take between innocence and chaos is what gives Labubu its emotional and aesthetic depth. One look and you're not sure whether to laugh, cry, or take it home and keep it under your protection forever. This feeling admirers get is by design. With Labubu, Lung didn't just want to create a toy, he wanted to create a mirror that reflected the bittersweet emotions people carry with them every single day. And it worked. Fans developed real connections with the toy, not because it was perfect, but because it wasn't. In a world where everything is filtered for beauty and cuteness, Labubu gives off an honest impression because of its raw and awkward design. Apart from this, each new edition of Labubu came with aesthetics and a new personality, making it even more adorable. Some editions were tough, some were shy, but each one felt like a character of its own, and that's the kind of depth that turns fans into loyal collectors. Labubu may have started its journey in Asia, but it didn't stay there for too long. What started as a niche-based designer toy quietly began developing a massive cult across the entire world, and it wasn't just kids or collectors that were fueling the hype. Everyone was in on it. Labubu's popularity and emotional resonance made it so that it didn't need a blockbuster movie to be a sales success. Its unique look, the perfect balance between cute and creepy, made it the ideal fit for viral social media posts, which played a huge role in its global success. Instagram collectors began showcasing shelves full of Labubu editions, where each one was perfectly arranged, as if it was an antique arranged in a museum. TikTok creators jumped in too, filming unboxings that turned every blind box into a miniature theater. You didn't know which version you'd get, and that's what made every pull feel like win or heartbreak. But either way, it was a success on social media. This wave of online content is what fueled the online demand further. Western audiences, who were already in on the sneaker and streetwear culture, immediately clicked with the collectible nature of Labubu and even started comparing it to Supreme. One of the most shocking things that was happening here was that Labubu was gaining traction from adults, not just kids. The collectible served as a nostalgic item for them. Apart from that, influencers began pairing it with luxury fashion or placing it in surreal photo shoots. Some artists even collaborated with Pop Mart to create limited edition versions of Labubu that combined high fashion with high emotion. Because of this popularity surge, Labubu became a symbol, proof that weird characters can indeed break cultural barriers and find a home anywhere in the world. Labubu didn't just ride the wave of designer culture, it helped shape it. As the toy gained global momentum, it highlighted a major cultural shift, stating that toys weren't just for kids anymore. They became emotional artifacts, art pieces, and lifestyle statements, especially among millennials and Gen Z adults who grew up but never stopped collecting. And in this evolving landscape, Labubu stood out because it wasn't trying to be polished or perfect. It was honest, raw, and odd, just like real life. Designer toy collectors soon began to see it in the same light as high-end vinyl figures or urban art. And with that, the lines between toys and art were blurred. In many ways, owning a Labubu became a way of expressing one's own identity. Pop Mart was quick to recognize this and play beautifully into it. They didn't just mass-produce toys, they staged exhibitions, created exclusive drops, and more to fuel the hype. Limited edition Labubu variants, especially hand-picked or collaboration pieces, started commanding serious money on the resale market. Some were selling for hundreds. And all of this helped Labubu break free from the traditional collectible label. Each edition came with its own aesthetic and narrative that appealed to audiences. However, they didn't just chase the most trendy one, they chased the one that resonated with them the most. Labubu didn't need loud branding or celebrity endorsements. It found its place by tapping into something more timeless, which was the feeling of being misunderstood, of not quite fitting in, and of finding beauty in that. And this is exactly what adult collectors were searching for, and that's what made Labubu into a worldwide success. When it comes to Labubu, its rise isn't just about a designer toy's success story. It's about how culture has and continues to shift today. In today's world, anything that gets famous is backed by a billion-dollar franchise or has a ton of celebrity endorsements. But Labubu proved that you don't need dialogue or celebrity cameos to connect with people. All this, from the sketchbook of one man, helped build a multi-million-dollar collectible empire, proof that even the strangest ideas can move the world. All you need is a character that's real, and one that resonates with others at an emotional level. Cause seeing Lung's weird little creature tapped into something we rarely see in mainstream pop culture: raw, imperfect emotion. It didn't have a polished backstory or any forced charm, just an oddly shaped figure that looked like it had been through something. That is what made people feel like they could express who they are by owning a Labubu. And that's what makes Labubu matter. Not just as a collectible, but as a symbol of how people crave authenticity even in their toys. If there's one thing that we could take away from Labubu's success story, it should be that it's okay to be a little strange, soft, and scared in a world where that's now becoming filtered for perfection. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and comment what you think about Labubu's success down below. And subscribe for more. See you all in the next episode.